Alright, so Supermix4 and Em10. If you guys are looking for an all-rounder, then these two are one of the best at its price point. I'll start with the Supermix4 first. Just a quick rundown, the SM4 is again one of the smoothest IEMs that I've heard. You know, it's smoother than the Em10, it's smoother than the Pilgrim, it's smoother than the Dust, the Nova, the Chopin. It's basically Harman at its best. And for $150, it's really a no-brainer in my opinion. The value is pretty great. It's basically a better version of the Nova and the Chopin, which are already great IEMs, but the SM4, you know, improves upon those with a little bit more clarity and just smoother in the treble and smoother in general. I won't repeat my comparisons with the Chopin and Nova, go check out my first video on that, but compared to the LM and the EA1000s, the SM4 is smoother, it's less bright and, you know, less energetic, it's more neutral, it's tamer in the low end and the treble. You know, it's not as engaging as the other two, but it is like more safe and better as a all-rounder. Low-end wise, the impact is heavier on the LM and the Fermats, and the imaging is also sharper on the Fermats and the LM, but you know, some people did find those to be a bit too bright. So for those who are looking for like a tamer and smoother version of like the LM and the Fermats, then the SM4 would be like the better pick for that. The SM4 complements the LM and the Fermats nicely. They're not redundant if you own the other two already. You know, those two are brighter, bassier, where the SM4 is cleaner and smoother and just like more neutral. Similar with the EM6L, the SM4 is different enough in my opinion. It's more neutral, it's less warm and bassy, it's smoother, it's not as like sharp and like bright in the upper mids, it's less boosted in the upper mids, right? It's more Harman than the EM6L. And overall, I guess the imaging is not as sharp as the EM6L, so gaming wise the EM6L will still be better, but overall, you know, they are different enough. If you own the EM6L, this is still like a good side grade to that, but the difference isn't like too drastic versus the LM and the Fermat. Like if you're just starting out and this is one of the first IEMs that you're easing your way into and you're not like completely sure which kind of tuning style you like, then the SM4 would be a good set to kind of just like ease your way into, since the tuning is very enjoyable, very safe, and most people are gonna like this. Although the downside to this type of style of tuning is it does get a bit boring at times, right? Like it's a bit too smooth with like slower indie and acoustic genres. And if you're looking for more energy or energetic or like, you know, special sauce from the bass, the mids, the vocals, the treble, then you're not gonna get this since all the frequencies are very harmonious without kind of like any region sticking out from one or the other, which makes it again a great all-rounder, which is great if you know you just want to hit shuffle. But this also means that as a result, no particular frequency is going to really like stick out or get emphasized or pop out from the others. Now for $150 for an all-rounder, this is good, like it's perfectly fine. I think the pricing is very good, but there are still better options if you want like something more different. For example, the CKLVX or the Pula is $150 and they're more airy and dreamlike, not as well-rounded, but definitely more, you know, quote-unquote special sauce, right? And then if you want something cleaner, more neutral, like a straight line, then the Zigat Chino, I think it was called, Chino, is pretty good as well. If you want a bass set, legato, right? So there's a lot of options if you want like different like specialty sound to certain frequencies, but overall this is an all-rounder set and it does its job very well as a all-rounder. As for the EM10, this is just the Supermix4 but on steroids. You get more details from the vocals, the treble, the cymbal splashes are airier, you hear like the micro nuances better in the like the entrails of the vocals, the notes. The bass is also more impactful, the drums goes harder, the sub bass is rumblier, and just like overall the EM10 is just the direct upgrade to the SM4. It's also still pretty smooth on top of like the resolution bump, not as smooth as the SM4. It's smoother than the Dusk, it's much smoother than the Aurora, it's around the same as the Hype Force and the Pilgrim, and likewise resolution and tech is also around the same as the Pilgrim, slightly more detailed than the Hype Force, but like the main difference is just in the low end. Compared to the Pilgrim is overall cleaner, it's less forward in the upper mids and the vocals, it's not as complete in like the upper mids extension as the EM10 because there is like a chunk missing from 3 to 8K, but the Pilgrim is like better than the Dusk vocal wise, although it's not as detailed and extended as the EM10 because of that upper mids chunk. And because of this tuning choice, the Pilgrim feels more laid back and tamer, not as airy in the end notes of the vocals. And now like none of them are like super airy really, but the EM10 does have like the most treble extension out of all of them, which makes it the most airy. Low end wise, the EM10 feels heavier, fuller, and the mid bass slams harder. It's not as quick in the decay as the Pilgrim. The Pilgrim again is overall cleaner and it's like bleeds, I guess bleeds less more than the EM10s. Even though the EM10 doesn't really bleed, it just has has more, I guess, like mid-bass emphasis. This makes the Pilgrim a lot safer and more vanilla as a result, where the EM10 feels like a lot more engaging and you really feel the bass more on the EM10. Another difference is that the EM10 is more immersive. It kind of like wraps around your head more, whereas the Pilgrim kind of just like presents itself or the music in front of you and not as like immersive and doesn't really take you into the music as much as the EM10s. So out of the two, if you want like a cleaner and more balanced sound signature, then the Pilgrim would be the better pick. Or if you're just like extra sensitive in the 3K area or like the vocal gain area, then the Pilgrim is also tamer and would be like the better choice in that regards as well. But if those don't affect you, I think the EM10 is the better choice overall. It's more like, it's more engaging, it's funner to listen to, and because the SM4 exists and does the Pilgrim's job very well already, again, like clean, well-tuned, well-balanced sound signature at like 89% of the Pilgrim for like a fraction of a price, it makes the EM10 more incentive to actually buy, because again, the Pilgrim and the SM4 are very similar in its like sound DNA. I do still think the Pilgrim is still a pretty good IEM. Like in a vacuum, if you ignore the SM4, it's pretty good. But would I pay $400 for it? Probably not, because I like a more engaging and immersive musical experience, which is, the EM10 does that a lot better. Whereas, this is definitely better than the Dust. So if you're choosing between this and the Dust for like a clean, traditional presentation in front of you, then get the Pilgrim, it's good. Similar story with the Hi4s, they also do still have a bit of special sauce. The Hi4s, being its low end, the texture, the energy, and the overall sound just being very like big and full sounding, whereas the EM10 also has like a little bit of special sauce because it's very immersive, kind of wraps around your head, and slightly airy in the treble and vocals, and combined with the good mid-bass kick makes it very immersive like musical experience. And I mentioned this before, but the EM10 is basically a mini Monarch Mark IIIs, and because of this, it actually replaces the top for me as like the best all-rounder before the Mark IIIs. It's just smoother than the top while retaining the same levels of resolution and clarity, not as bright as the top. And similar story with the variations. The EM10 is just like a better version of the variations to me. It's fuller, it's less thin, it's more engaging, and it kind of fills in the mid-bass scoop and adds more sub-bass while retaining the same upper mids and triple details. So overall, just a better variations and top in my opinion. Now versus the Mega 5 EST 7th edition, I think the Mega 5 EST is good. If you want a neutral set, it's very neutral. It's basically a straight line, but I do think they're a bit overhyped. I was able to hear it recently and I didn't review it because, well, I didn't really have much to say about it. I know DMS really likes it, but it was just too boring for me. The low end needs work. There's not enough low end. The texture isn't there. The impact isn't really there. The vocals are too pushed back. It's not very engaging in any region really. It's very balanced. Treble extension is good. Great layering, but nothing really sticks out from like the frequencies. Again, it's very, very neutral. After hearing it, like I heard this maybe like 1 to 2 weeks ago, I already forgot how it sounds. So I'm just a little bit indifferent to it. It's good, just like a lot of stuff that came out. It's pretty solid. It's a very well tuned set, but the sound is too safe and I guess not very memorable to me personally, and I wouldn't buy it myself, especially since it's like $500, $600. At around that price point, if you want like a clean neutral set but a little bit different, you can try the Arvedi OH700BB. Those are very good. They're neutral with more low end and more dynamic contrast. Or you can try the full Performer 8, neutral, flat with a slight treble emphasis. So a lot of choices that are neutral that adds in something different on top of just being like like a neutral all-rounder. But yeah, I mean, aside from that, Simgot dropped 2 bangers back to back. They got me working overtime while I'm on vacation. It's like super hot in this room. So if you're looking for an all-rounder, then either the SM4 or the EM10, which is the direct upgrade to the SM4s, are like the best in that scenario, if not one of the best at their price points and above. And if you wanted something bassier, then you got the Hi4s with the bigger sound. And if you wanted something like cleaner and less like forward and more tame in the upper mids, then you also got the Pilgrim. I also just got my prototype in as well, so I'm testing that right now. More updates on that later. But aside from that, that's all for now. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see everyone in the next one. Shout out to Jeff Young, RawX Cat, Dom Q, Star Buccaneers, Joel Pink, Discall Scaldus, B_Urac, Mystic Spoon Attack, Oh Really, Walker Standard, User, Ernest, Contain Guava Juice Gain, Patrick, Bell Cell Kel, Rodar the Calf, Perijat, Polly, Mr. Gorillas, Antoristo, Gis Seng Young, Tomat Pafrache, Ed, Harry, Christopher Federico, Name, Henry, Son of a Horse, 777ZK, Uncle That Hurts, and Asher. Thank you guys so much.